Thousands upon thousands of humans were wasted in a war against three giants with only one survivor, and Ronin discovered that they were only dealing with mere henchmen of the giants' army. In his final stand at humanity's collapse, Ronin regresses into the past, this time to enter the most prestigious academy and hone his talents for the apocalypse to come. Join us on this story as he carries the weight of a shattered future and tries to mend it with his sword. Under the crimson-red sky, one warrior remains standing at the end of a hard-fought battle. His fallen comrades exhausted the last of their strength to take down a formidable dark entity. Ronin lays his eyes on the battlefield, remarking how the being has brought the end of each man in heinous ways. While he's frustrated, Ronin hears a voice calling him. He turns to look at the fallen giant, who claims to be impressed by the abilities of the human. Ronin is shocked that Ahayut the giant is still alive. Ahayut is the last of the three giants beings that suddenly appeared in the Empire merely 20 days prior. These beings threw an apocalypse without reason. Ronin is angry and claims that the Empire is in tatters because of the rampage of the giants. Ahayut tells him that he will return to the embrace of his creator, while Ronin wishes the worst for the giant and his friends. Ronin explains that the remaining two giants also met a gruesome fate, with one of them being incinerated by the mighty red dragon and the other infinitely sealed away by a powerful mage called Lorhan. Wearing a smile on his face, Ronin boasts the confidence of a victor to assume the demise of the giants. However, Ahayut reminds him that his delusions won't take him very far, as the giants are the children of the stars, who share their senses. Ahayut claims that the ones who fought against the two giants met their inevitable demise as well. Ahayut emphasizes that no warrior like Ronin remains to defend the Empire. Confused by his words, Ronin tells him that he's still standing on the battlefield. Ahayut asserts that humans shouldn't be arrogant, deeming that their time has come to an end. Ahayut thinks that if Ronin had only discovered his true abilities sooner and honed his powers, then he would have become an unstoppable force in their way. Ronin knows that the giant is pressing his buttons and claims that his life had already been full of atrocities. Before the disaster of the giant, he orders Ahayut to die. Ahayut shares his final words, claiming that Ronin is an admirable human. However, even with that admiration, he emphasizes that there is no hope left for the human world, for it is soon to perish by their starlight. Before he could utter another word, Ronin cleaves his head clean, ending the giant's life. Standing tall with a blood-stained path, Ronin states that he can't change anything beyond what has already happened. Stepping forth, he remembers the precious memories that he shared with his comrades and comes to find his former friend deprived of life. Ronin is the only survivor of the entire group and blames his friends for getting killed in such a way, instead of running away. Ronin thinks that they should have used the opportunity, but they fought until the end. Damn, respect plus 1,000 for these guys. Muttering to himself, he fails to comprehend how the giants repelled the aura of the greatest swordsman of the Empire. He questions why his sword is the only weapon that could prove to be fatal against them. Ronin believes that it was because of him that they thought they could defeat the giants, which ended up in their deaths. Wallowing in the despair of having lost his loved ones, the chaos of Ronin's life has left him defeated. Dude has a sadder start to the story than any manhwa character. Suddenly, he hears a faint voice asking for him. The person claims that they're injured and unable to move. Ronin recognizes the voice and realizes that Adeshin is still alive. Gaining a newfound hope, even though he coped with many losses, Ronin staggers his way through to find her. Ronin forces his smile, knowing that she survived. However, Grand Marshal Adeshin has lost a limb and is in a precarious state. Frustrated by her terrible state, Ronin inquires what happened to her. Adeshin addresses the corporal and tells him that he's not looking his best either. She is concerned about Ahayut's state and questions if the giant has been defeated. Ronin confirms having killed the atrocity in the distance. Receiving such a confirmation, Adeshin sheds a tear of joy, thanking the corporal for delivering them such a victory. Intriguingly enough, Ronin asks her for a favor. He wants her to ensure that the Imperial soldiers who fought alongside him receive a proper burial instead of incinerating or abandoning their bodies, like they usually do. Adeshin tells Ronin that she is unsure of her condition to make it back, and tells him that Ronin should bury the men himself. Ronin doesn't like her flickering confidence in herself, but becomes a victim of his condition. He calls out blood and claims that he might not be able to outlive Adeshin. Ronin declares that he is dying even at the moment and regrets not having done many things in his life. He shares a sadness in his tone, which is why Adeshin questions what he would have liked to do if he survived. Ronin claims that there are a number of things, but one specific thing that he really wanted was to study at the academy. Addition is confused, while Ronan explains that it's because he wanted to be able to counter the giants more effectively. However, he thinks there is one more reason for this desire, which is that his sister's greatest wish was to send him to the academy while she was still alive. Ronan thinks that he shouldn't be so sad now because he will rejoin his sister in the afterlife soon. Addition tells him that the search party is sure to come for them after the heavy rain stops. However, Ronan thinks that he's a dead man being allowed to breathe and doesn't want to accept any kind of false hope. Suddenly, the rain stops at once, catching the attention of both warriors. They can't believe the storm ended out of nowhere. The ground begins to shake with a rumbling noise unlike any other. Ronan questions what is happening, and his eyes open wide as he witnesses the celestial leader of the giants bearing 8 wings. Not only that, the celestial army has entered their realm, leaving Ronan with a number of hopeless questions. Addition reaches a bone-chilling realization that the 3 giants that brought the end of humanity were nothing more than just the beginning. Strangely, Addition claims that it was her 3rd chance to correct this fate, yet she failed once again. She is filled with despair, knowing that her final chance won't end up any differently. While she is giving up to despair, Ronan roars his voice and brings her out of the abyss. Even when he's 1 foot under the grave, Ronan instructs his superior to use her telekinetic abilities so they can fight against them. Addition is at a loss for words, but Ronan's only objective is to keep on fighting. He shares that they shouldn't allow themselves to be killed. Preparing his blade for the death he has already embraced, Ronan claims that he is going to take down a few giants before he dies. My boy is fighting a battle against all odds. Like this video to show your support for this guy. Addition is dazed by the determination of the man before her, as even despite the odds, he is rebelling against their fate. She understands that Ronan is the kind of person who used his determination to climb this far. Addition comes to accept the fact that Ronan might be the only person who might be able to reach salvation. In her final moments, she reaches for Ronan and suddenly kisses him. It's not only a kiss, but a transfer of an energy orb. Ronan is plagued with a dozen questions and wonders what is going on. Addition whispers a few words in his ear, but Ronan is unable to understand or comprehend what's going on in such a dire situation. Addition addresses Ronan and requests that if he runs into her again, then he should advise her to pursue her dream of becoming a tailor instead of jumping to her death. Damn, she's seen some real crap to give up like that. Addition states that she has tried everything possible and nothing has worked except for the blowing up on her face. While the two of them are having this conversation, the celestial giant prepares a heavy beam strike and attacks them. However, the energy orb comes into effect and Ronan finds himself reawakened in the past. The hellish landscape changed a serene view, making the impossible seem possible in the eyes of Ronan. A youthful Ronan is shocked that he has arrived back in his hometown, Nimbard, and that he actually returned to the past. Ronan lets out a breath under the shade of the tree and fails to fathom the final words of the Grand Marshal. Returning to the moment that led to his time travel, Addition told him that he had swallowed the Orb of Time. This orb is the secret behind her success, and the reason she could become a Grand Marshal. The orb allowed the person to travel back in time, up to 4 times. Addition had already expired 3 of her chances, and only had 1 left. This final chance, she decided to dedicate to Ronan, as he is the one bearing the powers to slay the giants. Addition wholeheartedly believed that he was the key to stopping the extinction of their world. She also advised him to hone his skills to achieve his goals, and thinks that his ambitions of going to the academy will suffice. She instructs him to join the Philian Academy, a grandeur institution that is home to outstanding warriors, who can perfect Ronan's skills in battle. In her final words, Addition's sole wish was for Ronan to tell her past self to continue the art of tailoring, instead of pursuing a meaningless goal. Her haunting words linger in the mind of the warrior, who has returned to his youthful self. Ronan begins to lose his mind and thinks he might be dreaming. He shouts his frustrations and thinks he isn't capable enough to do everything on his own. Ronan suddenly pauses and realizes that he could take advantage of this situation. This time, Ronan thinks he has the opportunity to save his sister. Sprinting among the people, Ronan gleefully thinks that his destination is right ahead. He averts his eyes to catch the attention of nearby bullies who are abusing a kid by hanging him down the tree. Annoyed, Ronan turns to their direction and realizes that the boy isn't just hanging from a rope, but is actually floating in the air with magic. Ronan is confused about why someone with such great talent is in the countryside, because this kind of magical power is unheard of even in his experience in the army. Suddenly, he remembers the real reason why. He spots Estelle and realizes that he's the reason behind this mess. Estelle trembles in fear, not knowing what he should be doing, because the bullies force him to use his spell. The boy begs to be let go, claiming that he has no money to give as he spends everything on his mother's medicine. The leader of the delinquents chuckles and states that it's not his problem, and neither does he care about his mother. In frustration, he proceeds to smack his face repeatedly, berating the boy to make more money for them. The blonde boy turns to Estelle and tells him to lift the kid to the top of the tree. For added punishment, clattering his words, Estelle argues that it could cause an injury, but the leader of the delinquents doesn't care about the boy's well-being. Angrily, he tells Estelle to lift the boy to the top of the tree, otherwise he's going to be the one in trouble. Estelle contemplates how he was forced into this situation, wondering if he should have avoided learning magic in the first place. He wanted to impress the villagers with his abilities and show off his skills, which became his undoing. Internalizing his thoughts, Estelle thinks that he should tell them that it isn't possible. However, his fear paralyzes him from doing so. Facing his fear, Estelle musters the best of his ability to stop them. However, Ronan smacks him with his stick from behind and tells him that he's going to kill the kid at this point. With the release of his magic, the boy falls to the ground. Furious at his actions, the bully turns to Estelle and shouts at him for letting go of the boy. Ronan rises to his defense and tells him to forget about the loser before him as he's got important questions. Ronan doesn't pay attention to the bully behind them and questions where Estelle learned telekinesis. Estelle states that he learned from a magic book he bought from a merchant. Ronan is impressed that he was able to become proficient at magic by understanding a cheap book. Ronan is already thinking about putting Estelle's abilities to use and thinks that it might be useful against the terrifying giants. Suddenly, Ronan hears the sound of the sword and realizes that the bully has lost his mind for being treated as an irrelevant being. He tells Ronan that he was lucky to have been let off many times before, but now he's going to make sure the boy pays for good. Saying those words, he leaps forward to strike down Ronan. Unfazed by the attack, Ronan's perception is so sharp that he identifies the weapon as a longsword and wonders how a nobody like him could acquire such a blade. He criticizes the boy's technique and thinks that it might be effective against others. Easily evading his swing, Ronan thinks that the same won't work against someone like him. Astonished by his evasiveness, the bully fails to believe that Ronan dodged his attack. Ronan himself reflects that, despite his regression through time, he has retained his reflexes and the results of his training as a penal soldier. In the youthful body of a boy lies the experience of a war-hardened veteran with monstrous skills. Bro is smurfing in life, ha ha ha. The thug laughs at him and thinks that Ronan dodged the strike, thanks to a fluke. Ronan confirms his thoughts sarcastically. The bully orders him to beg for forgiveness if he wants to be spared. Ronan acts like he's deathly afraid when he really doesn't care. However, he immediately enters a serious state on the topic of his sister. The thug begins to yap about his sister, and before he can even finish his atrocious remark, Ronan draws his weapon with such tremendous strength that it blows off his ear, slicing it clean and sending it flying in the blink of an eye. The bully's sword falls to the ground as he wails in agony for the pain that he is suffering. Ronan shows a completely different side to himself and curses the scrub, questioning whether or not he should slice the boy's throat next. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend talking about his sister ever again, lol. Ronan stands before his first victim, while the rest of his underlings are shocked by the spectacle. Achieved by a mere tree branch, Ronan questions whether they enjoyed the show and tells them to take the trash in front of him away if they know what is good for themselves. He also reminds them to leave the money they took. They don't hesitate to give up the amount. In the next scene, the boy retrieves a sack of gold coins and is shocked to receive such a gift. Ronan tells him that he doesn't care about the money and states that his bullies won't be coming back anytime soon. Moved by his considerate gesture, the boy sheds tears of joy and is grateful for Ronan. Meanwhile, Estelle makes an official apology to Ronan. Hesitating between his words, Estelle states that he was afraid of being hurt, which is why he went along, but he knew that it was wrong of him to follow their whims. Shedding tears in guilt, Estelle takes the blame for all the pain and apologizes for his actions. The boy points out the fact that he has always seen Estelle crying ever since Hans pushed him around. The boy realized that the same Hans was also picking on Estelle. He empathizes with his situation and thinks they are facing the same cruel treatment. Comforting Estelle, the boy advises him not to be hard on himself and with a sincere smile, tells him that it isn't his fault. The boy appreciates his apology and bids them farewell. Ronan turns to SSS and reflects that he might be promising in the end. Ronan startles him with his inquiry and tells him that they're going to meet again in 3 days. SSS is confused and doesn't know what he means. Ronan claims that he is busy and would prefer to meet when the moon comes up. He also emphasizes what would happen if SSS fails to show up, a thought that terrifies the poor boy. Ronan dashes away, leaving SSS in a daze with a dozen questions. Standing in front of his home, Ronan thinks that he might have overdone it by bringing many flowers. His heart beats faster, knowing that his dear sister used to love such flowers. However, the moment he turns face to scrap them, the door opens and a familiar voice greets him. Ronan freezes in his steps at the voice of his sister, realizing that she is truly alive. Ronan remembers his life fighting as a penal soldier who had always wondered what he would say to his sister. Given the chance to see her again, he wondered if he should apologize for leaving home without notice or how dearly he missed her. Ronan wasted many hours in regret, and that was the fate he shared as a penal soldier. At the moment, Ronan thinks that there is only one thing that comes to his mind. With his sister greeting him, Ronan conveys that he has returned. Ah, so wholesome. I bet he always wanted to tell her those words in his previous life. Inside, Ariel appreciates the lovely flowers her brother brought for her sake. She beams with happiness, while Ronan is glad that she likes them at all. Ariel questions if he would prefer some stew, but Ronan has eaten quite enough. Ronan decides to ask a strange question about her sister's age. Ariel is confused that he doesn't know and tells him that she's 22 years of age. Ronan excuses that he forgot, while his sister wonders if he has some kind of headache or sickness for forgetting something so important. Fixating on his sister's age, Ronan thinks that he has a decade to prepare for the wrath of the giants to come. Inspecting his condition, Ariel is surprised to learn that Ronan is in perfect shape. Ronan remembers her like she never left, possessing bright features and a compassionate personality. In truth, he wished for the moment to last forever. However, Ronan is well aware that the attack will take place 10 years from now. He knows that he would have to protect his sister, along with the rest of the world. In light of this fact, he tells Ariel something important. Ronan declares that he wants to enter an academy, and his words surprise Ariel to a certain extent. Ariel beams in joy and tries to confirm his words, because he has never shared an interest in academies ever before. Faced with her brother's sudden change of heart, Ariel thinks that a natural-born genius like Ronan could become the best at anything he tries. Ariel brings forth a surprise gift for her little brother. When Ronan peeks inside, he finds a disgusting amount of gold coins that Ariel has been saving up in secret to surprise him, as she has always wanted to send him to an academy. Ronan appreciates the gesture and thinks that it's still impressive for her to have saved this amount of money. Even though he likes her support, Ronan advises her to use the money on herself because the amount isn't enough for him. Ariel is shocked and thinks that the amount is plenty for an academy, that is, until he spouts the name of the prestigious Philian Imperial Academy. Receiving his words, Ariel roars in shock. The Philian Imperial Academy is the leading educational institute considered the best in the Empire. This academy has the best teachers on the entire continent, and enough funding from the imperial family, making its education a cut above others. The academy's reputation is so great that people often refer to it as a hero factory. Whoa, they are talking about the real deal here. In fact, Grand Marshal Edition, Schlieffen the Swordmaster, and the Winter Witch, along with many others, were produced from the same academy and later on played a significant part in the war. The main barrier preventing him from studying at the academy is their exemplary high requirements and pocket-emptying fees. Ronan is surprised that his sister is cheering for him at all and knows that he's going to prove himself by getting into the academy. He meets Isel and misremembers his name as Misel. Ronan tells him that they have a busy night ahead and he needs to test his capabilities. Isel has his questions, but Ronan instructs him to use telekinesis on him and lift him as high as he possibly can. Isel is stunned by this strange request and inquires about the intention, because it sounds dangerous. Ronan advises him to do as he is told, as it won't kill him. Isel proceeds to follow his orders and initiates the spell with an incantation, Invisible Hand. The magic envelops and influences Ronan's body, lifting him in the air. Ronan is positively impressed and thinks that Isel's magic is far stronger than he expected, because it is capable of lifting him at quite a height. Ronan is aware that it lacks stability or greater height, but it makes him feel similar to the time he fought against the giants. The telekinesis casters allowed him to fight a Hayut and even fight in the air. This ability is exactly what Ronan was hoping for. Knowing that mages are hard to come by, Ronan claims that telekinesis is considered a rare talent, even among mages. He is glad to have Issel's support, and he is now convinced that Issel will play a major part in his battle against the giants. Smirking at the thought, Ronan thinks they're off to a good start. Issel, on the other hand, is losing his balance, as he is exhausting himself with the continued use of his magic. Ronan tells him to preserve for a while, because he wants to test something else, and then he will make the descent on his own. Issel is surprised by his words and wonders how, on Earth, he would be capable of doing that. Suddenly, Ronan renders a potent slash, much to the confusion of Issel, who is shocked that Ronan is capable of slicing apart his mana. Baffled by what had just taken place, Issel seeks answers, but Ronan thinks that it's nothing grand, as it is an ability that he is best at. Issel is surprised because he has never heard of a single person cutting through mana. Ronan smacks him and tells him to forget about it. In fact, one of his objectives is to find out more about Ronan's own abilities. He connects 2 and 2 together and thinks that his ability may have been the reason he was able to cut down the giant. He doesn't want to worry about the matter at present and thinks that there is more important business to tend to. Ronan declares that Issel passed the test and tells him that they have some work to do before the moon sets. Issel is afraid of the dark, but Ronan tells him that it doesn't matter. Under the gleaming light of the full moon, Ronan tells him that the first chapter of the tale of Ronan will now begin and will be etched in the Empire's history for all time. Got that? Nah, I'd win energy in him. Trekking through the forest, Issel is shocked that Ronan has intentions to make the both of them join Philian Academy, the same academy that only accepts elite warriors. Issel is more surprised about the fact that he is being taken along in this journey. Ronan confirms his statement, wondering if he has any issues with going to the academy. Issel reminds him that Ronan himself is a gifted fighter and would fare well in the test, but Issel himself isn't good at anything, aside from being a coward. Declaring his name, Ronan questions if Issel would rather spend the rest of his life the same way. Ronan once again questions whether he would prefer wasting his natural-born talent on street thugs and whether it is truly the life he wants to live. Ronan is aware that Issel needs to make a lot of progress and knows that he's cowardly, timid, a crybaby, and a wimp. Of course, his truthful words stab Issel in the heart. Ronan thinks that his current self doesn't matter because Issel is capable of changing those things. However, Ronan bluntly tells Issel that he can't change the time that he is wasting, assuring him that it will come to make him regret it someday. In his mind, Ronan thinks that he has faced a similar fate, remembering the horrors of his previous life. Ronan questions if his words were enough to persuade Issel's mind. Issel, on the other hand, is beaming with joy that someone like Ronan cares about him to such a degree. Ronan tells him that he won't force him along and that he's free to do what he pleases. Saying this, he turns his back on Issel, assuming the worst. However, Issel shows a change of heart and claims that he wants to change and go with him to Philian Academy. Ronan is glad that Issel is showing signs of growth and thinks they should eliminate their first challenge. On the other hand, Ronan is joyous that his persuasion worked like a charm. Bro's manipulation is crazy. The scene takes a different turn when Issel is shocked to realize the details of his first challenge. Ronan confirms that he found just the right opponent for Issel to upgrade his stats. What is this first opponent? One might question. It is a terrifying horde of Luna goblins, while Ronan thinks that the challenge will be a piece of cake for him. Issel is mortified and thinks the opposite. Ronan shares that it is about time they get started. The Luna goblins are goblin mutants that are found around the area. They are characteristically known for their yellowish skin and despicable bodies, differentiating from ordinary goblins. However, the most prominent feature of the Luna goblins is their obsession with treasure. They are known to attack carts and steal their gold without fear. After the assault, they gather the collected treasure and party afterward. They only party on nights when the moon is full, setting them up for the perfect opponent. Ronan emphasizes that they actually came to steal all of their collected treasure in this mission. Issel is shocked that there are goblins who live to steal treasure and celebrate. Issel wonders how Ronan knows about this information. Ronan claims that he heard about it from a place and reflects that he can't tell Issel that he has seen the goblins in his previous life. Ronan squeezes Issel and tells him that their objective is to use telekinesis to move the treasure, while the goblins are sound asleep and store it in their bag. Ronan thinks that the task is simple, whereas Issel fears for his life, thinking that he might mess up and wake them up putting both of them in danger. Essel argues that their first mission is quite risky, and they should do something else. Ronan is annoyed by his cowardice and explains that if they need to attend Filion, they need to ensure they meet the two necessary requirements. The first requirement is securing the bag, also known as acquiring a boatload of money, as the tuition fees are ridiculously high at this academy. The second requirement is actual combat experience, which is much more important than the money they bring to the table. Ronan informs him that the academy is brimming with warriors from aristocratic families who received elite education from birth. Ronan claims that one can only compete with people like that by risking their life to accumulate actual combat experience. Ronan points to the fact that these goblins make up for the perfect target for them to acquire the money and experience. He thinks that they're fulfilling both requirements with one challenge. He hounds at Essel and questions whether he has a better idea. Knowing that Essel doesn't, Ronan tells him to take the initiative, as they're officially starting the first challenge. Under the beautiful moonlight, Essel begins to use his telekinesis magic and slowly acquires the gold, storing it in the bag. He carefully executes the entire process and drops them into the bag. Ronan is glad that they got the money needed to fulfill the first requirement, having filled both of the storage bags with gold. Ronan is proud of Essel's accomplishments and reflects on being underconfident about Essel's abilities. Ronan is glad that Essel is more capable than he thought and thinks that he has discovered the perfect accomplice for his schemes. Aha, my guy found the Robin to his Batman. Fulfilling their objective, Ronan states that they should head back as they're already done with the mission, instead of involving themselves in trouble. However, two boys are making an absurd amount of noise at this hour while chasing after a bird. Essel and Ronan are both startled to hear the noise and wonder what kind of fool would be stupid enough to be noisy at such an hour. What's worse is the fact that the noise wakes up the Luna Goblins, who are quick to learn that their sparkly gold has been taken away from them. The Luna Goblins are wary of the thief and wonder where they went. Their attention is drawn towards the two humans behind, who are also responsible for stealing their treasure. Essel goes blank, while Ronan thinks that they're in trouble, and the entire horde angrily rushes towards them. Essel is losing his mind and assumes defeat, while Ronan thinks that nothing in his life ever goes smoothly in the end. Essel thinks that they should make a run for it, but Ronan claims that they're not leaving the treasure behind and takes his stance to fight the goblins. He reminds Essel that they have to pay for the tuition fee, even though Essel thinks that their lives are more important at present. With the lunging force of the Luna Goblins, Ronan inspects his blade and thinks that the longsword is of cheap quality. He accurately judges that the sword will withstand about 15 hits in total, except he is facing 30 goblins all at once. One of the lunging goblins is about to attack him, while Ronan thinks that 15 should suffice and proceeds to deliver a devastating slash, ripping off 3 heads with one strike. With his sword tainted in blood, Ronan proceeded to massacre the goblins with a total of 14 slashes. With his sword resting atop the goblin's head, Ronan thinks that the battle isn't exhausting at all. The one who is left astonished by his abilities is Essel, who doesn't have words to describe the spectacle that he has just witnessed. Essel recalls that Ronan slayed 3 goblins with a single strike, and then slaughtered the ones behind with such incredible speed that it made it seem like he disappeared for a moment before reappearing out of thin air to deliver a slash to the final goblin, laying waste to the dozens of corpses on the ground. Essel is terrified of Ronan's abilities. The warrior casually asks why Essel is frozen in place and tells him to ready their stuff as they are headed home. Ronan and Essel make their way back carrying the heavy bags. Surprisingly, Ronan finds himself exhausted, despite the easy mission. He wonders why his muscles are so sore from slashing just a couple of goblins, and thinks that his youthful body might not be durable enough. Ronan thinks that he should start working on his physique after returning home. On a different note, Essel asks him about the noise they heard earlier. Ronan states that he doesn't know either and thinks that some people are stupid for shouting like that. While they are unaware, an archer prepares his shot from behind before releasing the sharp arrow headed toward Essel. Just before the arrow is about to kill Essel, Ronan catches it with his incredible speed. Essel is left terrified, like he's facing an arrow, and wonders where it even came from. Ronan wonders if the forest is haunted at this point because of the annoyances they had to face up until this point. He looks towards the 2 boys and questions their identity. Apparently, the archer shot the arrow, thinking that they were monsters. Ronan is furious that they are called a bunch of kids. The archer explains that they heard something in the distance and took their shot. He tries to act as if it was all a mistake in the end, and extends his hand. However, Ronan sees right through their lies and calls them out on their bullcrap. He tells them to drop their terrible act and reveal their identities at once. The archer apologizes for not having introduced himself sooner. Preparing a blade from his rear, he lunges forth to strike Ronan and declares that they're the Carabolo. Ronan casually grabs his arm and swings a punch in his face, knocking the living daylights out of the guy. Ronan is actually familiar with the Carabolo group and considers them annoying. The second assailant tries to attack him. Witnessing his attack, Essel tries to protect Ronan by using an invisible hand. Restrained by the ability, the assailant doesn't know the reason he has stopped moving. Ronan, on the other hand, is impressed that Essel is getting the hang of things. He kicks his blade before catching it and rendering a dozen strikes on his body. Without even knowing what happened, the assailant's body bursts into pieces before falling to the ground. Essel is disgusted by the sight of the dead humans, while Ronan thinks that they couldn't really leave him alive when they intended to kill them. Ronan also states that they're from the Carabolo. This name strikes fear in the heart of Essel, who realizes that this is the same awful gang that is notorious for its savage acts of kidnapping and human trafficking. With their wretched name known to the whole empire. Ronan stabs the other member dead and states that they would have certainly killed Essel, stolen his organs, and buried him all in the same night. Ronan thinks that it's a crime to let these kinds of people escape. A presence within one of their bags suspiciously rises in the air, alarming Ronan, who wonders what's inside. Essel thinks that it might have been an animal that they poached. Ronan agrees. When he unties the rope, a pair of blue eyes glare at him as the bird makes its escape. The sight of the bluebird astonishes the warrior, who has never seen something like it before. The bird is actually an innocent creature, which sparks passion in Essel, who has also never seen the bluebird before. Ronan takes note of the shackles and realizes that they're the Carabolo snare. The shackles can restrict movement by disturbing the creature's mana flow and are used for poaching. Ronan recalls that the snare is used to catch rare animal species and realizes that the bluebird might be an uncommon find. Suddenly, the bird begins to communicate with the two, stating that they're connected at last. Essel is startled and questions Ronan, who calls him an idiot and claims that it's a communication spell. Ronan concludes that the bundle also must have some kind of ability to block mana. Baron claims that he is the owner of the bluebird and that he also studies the rare species of the imperial capital. He is considered the guardian of the dream bird called Marpus. Baron sees that he did his best to communicate with Marpus, but was unable to. He was going to contact the police for the matter, but found himself in relief that Marpus was in one piece. Baron inquires about the identity of the people he is speaking to. Ronan keeps it short and simple and tells him that they're just passing by. Ronan generalizes that they had a little encounter with a bunch of poachers who coincidentally kidnapped the bird, which ended up in quite a brutal ending that he's unable to describe. Yeah, Dew gave Virgil's judgment cut on a level 10 thug, like chill. Ronan makes it clear that they saved the bird at least. Baron is alarmed hearing about the poachers and thanks them for their efforts. Essel finds the dream bird adorable, while Ronan inquires how they're supposed to send the bird back to Baron, as its feet are locked in shackles. Baron confirms that the bird will be able to fly back after unlocking the shackles. Baron states that dream birds characteristically possess a homing instinct, allowing them to return with ease. Finding it convenient, Ronan whips out his blade and immediately renders a clean slash, leaving the bird speechless by his strength. Ronan instructs the bird to fly back to its father and reminds Marps not to make Baron worry again. Marps finds a liking to Ronan and strangely presents its posterior to Ronan's face, who is offended. Baron states that the bird is allowing the human to pluck a feather before her departure, as she wants to see Ronan later. Baron explains that the feathers of such birds act like a compass and point to the direction of the bird, even after the feather has been plucked. Baron tells them to come visit Marps along with himself if they ever decide to visit the capital. With the feather plucked, Marps takes off with such incredible speed that Baron is unable to finish his words. Essel points to the object in Ronan's hand. Ronan also feels something warm and is drawn to puzzlement as he inspects the object. A few days later, Ronan and Essel present a gem along with other valuables to a merchant to exchange valuable coins. The head of the trading company, Dune Caravel, treats them nicely, a treatment that Ronan especially welcomes because he has had a rough day dealing with the other merchants who were trying to rip them off. Ronan is grateful for meeting an honest merchant and thinks that his efforts were worth it in the end. Dune inquires if they have any other requests, to which Ronan decides to take out an item for appraisal. The item appears to be a small sphere, and it is the object that the dream bird laid in his hand before leaving. At first, Ronan thought that the bird defecated on his hand, despite serving Marps such supportive treatment. Because of how grossed out he was, Ronan chucked the sphere into the nearest rock. The result? The sphere crushed it, without receiving a single scratch, leaving the both of them astonished and at a loss for words. That egg got a Nokia 3310 inside. I'm calling it. Dune carefully appraises the object, while Ronan wonders if it is some kind of egg. He knows that it belongs to a rare species, and thinks that it is possible for it to become a priceless treasure. Dune is seen contemplating the qualities of the object, while Ronan is hoping for something fascinating. Declaring the object to be horse dung, the merchant crushes Ronan's dreams and expectations. Ronan disagrees, while the merchant thinks that the object is rather unusual and Ronan would fare much better getting it checked by a specialist. Ronan is too curious about the object to sell it, while Estelle weirdly thinks that it might just be a really hard block of bird poo. Ronan inquires with the merchant about the Philian Academy books and tells him that they're hoping to take the entrance exam. Dune is glad to hear of their ambitions and tells them that his daughter will become ideal for helping them get sorted. Coincidentally, his daughter enters the scene, inquiring about the strangers. Dune introduces the group to his daughter, Maria. However, Ronan is caught off guard by her name and wonders if it is truly her. Dune tells Maria that Ronan and Estelle accomplish a great sale with them. Maria is blunt in her remarks and calls them a bunch of kids. Dune apologizes on his daughter's behalf and states that she doesn't filter her words. Ronan is unaffected by the comment and draws nearer to the girl, questioning once more if she is truly Maria. Ronan questions if she also goes by the neutral name Sen, a piece of information that catches her off guard because she is meeting him for the first time. Ronan finds it odd and remembers her in a different memory of his previous life. To confirm his facts, Ronan decides to lean closer before asking an insensitive question about her privates. Maria is shocked by the audacity of his words and meditates on his question. Ronan wonders if Dune has a son that he is unaware of and goes on to receive a brutal slap to the face for running his mouth. Strangely enough, Ronan remembers this exact feeling from his previous life and is certain that this is, in fact, Count Maria Sender. When he was back in the army as a penal soldier, Maria Sen was given the duty of looking after supplies. Sen was known to be very strict and a person who strictly followed the rules, yet he was able to get along with Ronan with ease. However, each time Ronan made childish jokes, Sen would go on to slap him without reason. Ronan had always wondered the reason why, and wanted to ask him eventually, but unfortunately, his friend lost his life before him on the battlefield. Ronan remembers the taste of his strikes, and never expected to bump into his friend in such a place, not to mention the fact that he has discovered Count Maria Sen's real gender. Throughout this time, Maria is annoyed that the strange man before her is laughing even after his incredulous remark. She rushes forth to strike him again, but Ronan returns the favor by smacking her head, leaving a mark that she will remember. Ronan explains that he intently let her slap him, knowing that he had made a mistake and that she wouldn't be able to hit him again. However, Maria proceeds to headbutt him right then, and the two engage in a childish battle with each other, leaving Estelle and Dune lost for words. After a little while, Estelle is shocked to learn that the two have warmed up to each other so fast that they're casually having a discussion. Maria wonders why Ronan carries 3 swords at one time, thinking that they might be inconvenient to carry. Ronan tells her that he can get rough with swords and asks her opinion on the weapons. Maria claims that the weapons aren't the worst, and the black steel sword is the best one of them all. She tells him that the black steel swords are tremendously sturdy, so much so that even the knights are known to use them. While she's unsure of his use of swords, Maria thinks that Ronan shouldn't be able to break the sword so easily. Ronan is amazed at the sight of the black steel sword, recalling it as his favorite type of weapon in his previous life. She talks about the magical wand and states that it stores a good mana stone embedded on top. Knowing that there is a staff on them, Maria guesses that Estelle is a mage, a fact that he confirms. When asked about the type of magic he uses, Estelle fidgets to reveal that he can use telekinesis. Maria is shocked and thinks that he would be able to get a scholarship at the academy because of his talent. Leaving Estelle aside, the two of them are left to qualify themselves. Maria questions what technique he's going to show them during the exam, something that Ronan is not aware of. Maria informs him that a requirement to enter Philian Academy is to showcase a technique in front of the professors. She also states that the written exam is quite difficult, but the practical test is even harder. Maria states that the practical exam carries much more weight, so much so that one could get in by simply excelling in the practical exam alone. She emphasizes that proving oneself is important during the exam, otherwise, he can bid his dreams goodbye. Ronan inquires if a basic swordsman like him can simply point his way to victory, and also asks about the techniques the people usually put on display. Maria reveals that the applicants of the noble families are known to demonstrate each of their family's secret techniques. She thinks that for most of the people applying, it would be best to demonstrate a unique mana combat technique. Ronan stops her and questions how swordsmen could even use mana, and they're not even mages. Maria is confused by his complaint and thinks that such a basic skill is not enough for the people applying for Philian Academy. Maria asks if Ronan has mana resonance, and also tells him that he is supposed to demonstrate his control over mana during combat, as that is one of the basic requirements. Her words strike as odd to Ronan, who has never once heard of this information before. Maria comes to a horrifying realization that Ronan is unaware of the concept of mana resonance, and it gets even worse when he compares the process to using an aura. Maria is embarrassed for Ronan, who is applying for the most prestigious academy and doesn't even know the fundamentals. This is like applying to Harvard without even knowing about elementary level education. Yikes. Maria emphasizes that there is a difference between the two and tells Ronan that they need to hurry at once. She also takes his short sword for the meantime to demonstrate her point. Ronan is annoyed that she is using his swords and fears damaging them. Maria assures him that nothing will happen to his precious blades, and if it does, she can pay him back triple the value. She instructs them to come with her for a special lesson. It is explained that mana is the energy source of the entire universe, no different from the air humans breathe. It is a type of natural energy that exists everywhere. However, not just anyone is capable of using it, as in order to use mana, one requires mana resonance, which is the ability to see and feel their own mana. Every person takes a different path to awaken this stage, but it is usually thought that one should train for about a year in order to activate the senses. The applicants of Philian Academy don't just possess the ability to sense mana. In fact, they are seasoned professionals who have honed themselves in deploying mana during combat. Maria tells him that someone like Ronan, who is living under a rock and doesn't even know the difference between an aura and mana resonance, isn't suitable for the Philian Academy. She agrees that auras are a type of mana that shares opposite properties. Maria claims that the most gifted warriors have to embark on a decade's worth of gruel training to tap into their unique powers. These powers are called auras. Ronan is beginning to get the hang of things and remembers facing such aura users back in the war. He knew that they were special and more difficult to kill than regular people, but never did he find them troublesome and could end their lives with a single slash. Bro was him in his previous life, goddamn. Maria thinks they should go for a combat demonstration because she suspects Ronan to be a visual learner. Ronan underestimates her abilities until she zaps in front of him with such incredible speed that he is forced to respond and blocks her attack. Eyeing down the serious warrior in front of him, Ronan is impressed by Maria's abilities. With their blades clashing against each other, Ronan fends off the strike, impressed by her abilities at such a young age. Ronan thinks that Maria must have been implying to fight with the use of mana. Maria, on the other hand, is in utter shock that she wasn't able to end the battle in a single strike. She intended to destroy his hopes of taking the entrance exam by showing him a true taste of the powerful mana, thinking that it would be much better for him to surrender now than get himself humiliated at the examination site. However, what she can't comprehend is that the warrior before her is overpowering her instead. Maria can't fathom that someone like him could be so strong without even the use of mana. While her thoughts plague her, Ronan asks why she is distracted. He then proceeds to create an opening for himself and prepares a strike, instructing her to dodge it instead of blocking. Ronan's deadly attack flies right past her, as Maria is set on the back foot. She thinks that she narrowly escapes the strike and finds Ronan to be quite the force. Ronan believes the same for her case and advises her to work on her balance, which would make a huge improvement in her abilities. Maria questions why he is leaving the battle and tells him that the fight isn't over. Ronan claims that he doesn't care about victory and only wants her to uphold her promise. The reason he says this is because Maria's short sword crumbles into dust, thanks to the fight, and Ronan wants triple the reward for that. Maria doesn't even notice her sword shattering, while Ronan tells her that she owes him for that. Asel taps her shoulder and shows a dazzling expression as he is impressed by Maria's excellent abilities. Ronan calls him over, leaving Maria to wonder what kind of person Ronan actually is. The following day, Ronan came to collect payment for the sword, only to find himself a bundle of wealth containing many books on Filian Academy. She even wrote up a summary for him, and thinks that he will definitely require one, as the exam is in a single month. Ronan questions why she's doing this for them, and wonders if she's trying to scheme something. Maria tells him that she has found fascination in the two of them, and wants to throw in the books as a gesture of appreciation for their friendship. Maria intended to teach Ronan on her own, but she had her hands full with her father's business. She tells him to work his best on his own, since if he fails the exam after much preparation, she won't be happy. Ronan advises her to worry about her well-being, and eventually, they bid her farewell. Ronan reflects that he needs to train his current weak body and exert effort on studying for the first time in his life. Even when faced with this situation, he doesn't reject the idea and is looking forward to it. Returning home, Ronan's usual life proceeded the same, but he was changing bit by bit. Ronan usually ate with Ariel, like a demon starved for weeks in every meal. Ronan utilized the extra calories and hunted down monsters outside of town, building up his stamina and endurance abilities. Ronan wraps up his physical training for the day, wiping out every monster on the outskirts of the town. After his training, Ronan religiously studied, like he had never before, something he never envisioned himself doing as a penal soldier. Ronan didn't like memorizing pointless facts and didn't know how difficult the exam would be, but he did his best to prepare in whatever way he could. Finally, 1 month passed, following his routine efforts. Imperial capital, Valen, is considered home to the world's greatest educational institution. SL is at a loss for words, witnessing the luxurious academy before him at last. He finds the city's architecture a beauty on its own. While he's fanboying over the city, Ronan tells him not to stand in the middle of the street like a useless vegetable and prepares himself to go to the exam site. Asil also comments that he can't believe Ronan's body grew to such size in the span of a single month. Ronan tells him to stop bickering around and get on with the move. He wonders if a specific person will also be around Filian at this time. The person he means is Schlieffen, the sword master. Schlieffen is the head of the Grantia family, which is very famous for its excellent sword mastery. He is also considered a genius swordsman throughout the Empire. Schlieffen was around Ronan's age when he entered the academy, which is why he thinks that he will be able to catch a glimpse of him in the exam. Estelle questions if Ronan brought the feather from the dream bird that they saved, which could point in the direction of the bird's owner. Ronan reveals that he brought the feather, knowing that Baron said he lived in the capital. He wanted to pay Baron a visit after the entrance exam. Suddenly, the feather begins pointing the way to the top floor of the structure. The scene switches to Baron, who is contemplating his life as a teacher. Marpes, being the lovable bird she is, tries to encourage him otherwise. Baron is revealed to be a beast man, who still remembers Ronan's favor and wants to repay him for it. Baron Panasir is the professor of zoology at the academy, and his characteristics are those of a were-lion. He turns to the windows, wondering if Marp's savior will arrive today. However, the moment Baron opens the window, he sees Ronan's demonic face, and he is surprised the window opens without him knocking. Both Baron and his blue bird are caught off guard and scream for their lives. Baron questions how they got to the top floor, while Asel and Ronan climb inside, contemplating whether they really should have done such a thing. Baron thinks that they might have come to acquire Marpes until he spots the feather and realizes that these two individuals are the ones responsible for saving his bird in the first place. He greets them with an apology, but Ronan doesn't think much of it, knowing that it is Asel's fault for climbing up in such a way. Asel is surprised, because Ronan suggested the idea of using telekinesis. Ronan tells him to stay quiet and expresses his surprise, seeing that Baron is a were-lion, widely considered the rarest in all the were beasts. Not only that, Baron is a professor at the most prestigious academy. Baron also expresses his surprise not knowing that Ronan and Asel would be applying to the academy. He frowns at the fact of not having written a recommendation letter sooner, except the exam is taking place today, and he can't do much about it. Even if the outcome fails, Baron intends to write them a letter. Ronan tells him about their purpose, to make an appearance. He shows him the sphere that the bird left as a parting gift. Laying his eyes on the rarest egg, Baron is shocked that Marps would do such a thing for Ronan. The warrior does not find it a big deal, as birds are meant to lay eggs. Baron assures him that the incident is miraculous, as Marpes is considered a dream bird. The amazing part is that there is no telling what kind of creature would emerge from the egg. Ronan is at a loss, so the professor explains that dream birds are different in nature, as when they lay eggs, they infuse them with the unique mana of their surroundings or the person nearby. The egg produced near lava would give life to a phoenix, while an egg born in a monster lair would share the appearance of a monster. Lol, this is more like a mystery box than an egg. Baron also claims that one could predict the kind of creature that would emerge by analyzing the mana radiating from its egg. Even then, he finds this particular egg an anomaly, as it has many patterns swirling around it as if it is some kind of mixture. Even Baron is incapable of declaring the type of creature that rests inside. While Ronan thinks that a mere egg shouldn't have so much lore to it, Baron advises him to hold on to the egg, but Ronan doesn't really care much about it and emphasizes that Baron would find it valuable. The professor confirms that the item is indeed valuable, as dream birds only lay one egg in a lifetime. However, he wants to respect Marp's wishes, as she sensed something special about Ronan. Marp finds herself in glee while Baron respects her wishes. Ronan holds on to the egg and grows curious about what could emerge from it. Knowing that it is time for the exam, Ronan and his cell begin making their leave. Baron hurriedly decides to impart to them the perfect gift for their efforts. He hands Ronan a scripture that would help them hatch the egg. In the next scene, they arrive at the practical exam site. The waiting room is filled with applicants who are taking the martial arts exam. The examiner calls for the next applicant to enter the exam hall. Ronan realizes that his number is next and finds himself bored after waiting a long time. Sitting next to him is Maria, who tells him that the wait is half the time for each exam. When asked why she was dressing in uncomfortable clothes, Maria claimed that she wanted to dress up for the place, as they were going to meet the people of the wealthiest families. She wants to do business with those people without looking like a total amateur. She has become fascinated by Asel and regrets not sharing a seat with him, because his exam is in the mage's area. Ronan hopes that Asel isn't whining, while the examiner calls for his name to enter the site. Maria wishes him the best of luck and reminds him of her words. Ronan tells her that he'll be returning soon. Stepping into the exam site, Ronan lays his eyes on the 5 esteemed professors of the Philian Academy. Ronan finds all of them quite intimidating. The older man in the middle is the headmaster of Philian Academy, an archmage known as Craver Krakier. The woman sitting next to him carries intense energy, as Navarros is the sword fight instructor and a master in her own right. Ronan introduces himself with respect, while the headmaster, Cravar, returns the favor. He is told to demonstrate a technique for them on the enchanted dummy, and is asked if he has decided what he will be demonstrating. Ronan explains that his technique isn't exquisite, and only requires a quick slash for a dummy. One of the professors is surprised that this mere boy is deciding to perform a simple feat at the most prestigious academy. He bickers that people like him take the exam each time and underestimate the endurance of the enhanced dummy. They make fun of him for being ignorant, as even though the dummy doesn't look like a strong defense, it is capable of withstanding aura-based attacks and has a high-speed recovery function imbued. This simple design bears the weight of sophisticated magic to craft the perfect tool against the applicants. The 2 professors argue that even the genius Schlieffen couldn't make much of a mark on the dummy, so the kid in front of them won't have much to offer. Headmaster Krevar hears their bickering and thinks it is disrespectful to speak in front of a candidate in such a way, wondering if the applicant is disheartened by their words. However, Ronan exudes immense energy while preparing for his strike, shocking the headmaster. Launching an incredibly precise strike, Ronan slices the head of the dummy, leaving Navarros' mouth gaping open in surprise. Ronan respectfully states that he is done with his demonstration. Of course, the 2 professors immediately began to mock him for thinking that a mere slash was capable of anything. When they turn to the headmaster's opinion, Craver is stunned. Without uttering a single word, Navarros leaps from her position and immediately charges with her blade. Navarros stops her blade right next to his, while Ronan questions her identity. Enraged, Navarros demands from where he acquired the sword technique. Ronan doesn't understand her question, so Navarros makes it easier by asking him if he is capable of seeing through her attack. Ronan confirms that she performed an impressive attack and was capable of swinging her blade 3 times in a single advance. Navarros confirms that she indeed performed 3 slashes, no different than the arrogant slash that Ronan demonstrated mere moments ago. Navarros is the only one who realizes that Ronan rendered not 1, but multiple slashes, intentionally slowing down the final strike to ensure the professors wouldn't just glance over his intricate technique. Navarros talks him down for being arrogant in a room full of the most prestigious professors. The theory professors, on the other hand, are left wondering what they missed. Let it go, you geezers. You are fossils at this point. Ronin reflects that he didn't mean to be arrogant and only stopped the sword because he thought the blade would shatter. However, he feels a chilling sensation emanating from the sword master before him, realizing that she wouldn't believe his explanation, even if he tried. Navarose collects her sword and claims that she will remember Ronin, declaring that she will teach him herself. Returning to her seat, the headmaster is surprised that Navarose has already accepted the boy as her student. Cravar thinks that he should step up the act and thanks Ronin for a display of his abilities. Asking a final question, the headmaster inquired about Ronin's motivation for coming to the Philian Academy. Ronin thinks of it as a difficult question, remembering the losses he endured in the deadly war. In light of his past mistakes, the boy answers that he doesn't want to regret the mistakes he shared in the past, which is the first thing he would like to learn. His words leave the headmaster impressed, and he is told to take care. Ronin exits the room while the headmaster thinks that teaching someone not to regret their mistakes would be difficult. The theory professors are too eager to ask what happened, and if the boy used some kind of trickery. The headmaster claims that trickery could be a fitting word. Then, we get to witness the state of the enchanted doll with its head severed from his body. Cravar asserts that the boy is a powerhouse of talent within, his words and abilities coming as a shock to the professors, who were making fun of him only moments ago. Switching the scene to Ronin, he is impressed by Navarose's abilities and wonders if he could have stopped her advances in his previous life. Even though Ronin thought he had seen everything, the woman before him was enough to prove otherwise, making him feel like there was a long way to go. Smiling at this fact, Ronin thinks that he made the correct decision by coming to the academy. Ronin has grown optimistic that he will be able to learn an incredible amount at Philian Academy. He wants to attend to the written exam, an exam that he has been studying crazily for. Ronin thinks that he should be fine, but his expectations crash down to reality, knowing that he screwed up exactly like he did in his previous life. Maria realizes that Ronin only studied half the material, even though she advised him to review everything. Estelle explains that he took out a book and tossed the bag aside, and he was so fixated on the single book that he forgot about the others in the bag. Estelle takes the blame, but Maria gets all the more frustrated by his stupidity. Maria tells him that the results are soon to be announced, and that he is sure to be fine. Finally, a magical screen displays the results of all applicants. Estelle secured first place on the written exam, while Maria acquired equal stats on both her practical and written exams. They both turn to each other, celebrating having passed. Maria is proud of Estelle for sharing first place with two other candidates. Maria turns to Ronin to ask about his position, who is standing on the brink of hopelessness. Ronin realizes that he's not even on the list and sulks at the thought of not entering the academy. Maria butchers him for acting stupid, but Ronin confirms having checked the whole list. Suddenly, an attack enrages the examination site. However, it is not quite an attack. Instead, it is a celebratory firework to conclude the entrance exams. The Glory Phoenix opens its wings and points to Ronin, deeming him the salutatorian of the martial arts department for securing first place on the practical exam and, well, the 5,712th place on the written exam. The two of them are left amazed that Ronin was declared such a prestigious title, even though he completely flunked the written exam. Suddenly, Ronin realizes that his rising at the top implies that the genius Schlieffen lost to him. Ronin senses that Schlieffen isn't pleased, and the man himself makes an appearance by popping up from behind. Ronin realizes that he's finally getting to meet Schlieffen, the genius sword master.